Welcome to episode 123 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Dirty. Joining me this week, a man who ducks, dodges, who mind controls and poisons, who stealths and cripples, who flips through hoop after hoop after hoop. And all I can keep saying is, Gaz and XP. So together, I ask you all to send thoughts and prayers to him. 10 subscriptions is 1 XP to him. Let's all help level our Gaz. Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, guys. So I don't know. Is there a conversion rate for subscriptions, YouTube subscriptions into GLOOMHAVEN XP?
I was worried that if it was 1 subscription for 1 XP, that people would subscribe and then unsubscribe immediately. And then you'd get the XP, and then I'd feel bad removing that from you, being like, So I figured if we do a big conversion kind of thing, look, if we get 9 subs out of it, I still don't have to give you as XP, so it's fine.
That's true, actually. That's true. So yeah, awesome. The XP problem is real, and that's mostly my fault because I don't pick the right cards and then play the right cards. Mostly
or completely?
I'd say mostly. I feel like some of the blame isn't mine.
Okay, are we elaborating on this?
Yeah, there's like a third of the blame that probably lands elsewhere, and
okay.
It's undetermined, undefined blame.
All right. We'll see if we can get that out of you in the Diaries area. See if that's something we want to delve.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that I actually asked Google Gemini, because you and I are both Google people with Google phones and all that kind of stuff, about any advice I can give you. for Mindthief XP. Would you like to hear would you like to hear its expert opinion?
I'd love to hear it. Yep, let's go.
All right. The secret to leveling up your Mindthief friend is to treat them less like a competent assassin and more like a perpetually nervous, highly efficient XP auditor. Their primary mission is not violence, but the meticulous generation of 1 XP whenever the rules allow, typically by playing and replaying augment cards, just for the sad tiny experience point before leaving them active. This whole miserable process is best exemplified by the stun and snicker combo. They play the bottom of Perverse Edge for 1 XP and a single lonely ice token, only to use the top of Frigid Apparition on the following turn to consume the token, stun a monster, and earn another XP. This 2-turn exchange is the height of efficiency, generating 2 XP and a momentary lapse in enemy motor function. And it should be repeated until everyone is bored. Tell them to keep hoarding those big flashy lost cards like a true villain, saving the final monologue, only dumping them for massive XP in the last room when the enemies are already basically dead. Otherwise, they're just wasting their career potential.
All right, cool. So basically stand there and do nothing and just cycle through my cards. Yep. Good advice. So I'll do that next week, and then everyone can watch us fail and have to repeat the scenario because you basically did it with 2 people on 3-player mode.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll fix the XP issue.
All right, it definitely would. If I just stood there just cycling cards, yeah, 100%. So no, that's fine. I don't think, again, it's a me issue. I know people are going to tell me what to do, and I get it, and I appreciate the feedback. But at the end of the day, I have to play the cards that have the little XP symbol on them. But that's the first step, right?
Yeah, and look, this is all fun and games and joking and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we want to also win the scenario, right? And that's a big part of it, especially after last week we lost. This week, it was fairly close. It wasn't like on the last AMD flip kind of thing. But, I mean, that's something that, we all have to make sacrifices, some more than others. I mean, some of us don't even at all because some of our cards just say, hey, have 3 XP, right?
3 XP. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, look, maybe we can go into the diaries because I specifically this scenario and a little bit the last one, but mostly this one, I just didn't take the cards that have XP on it other than the augments.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was like, these are the cards that I want to play. So, it's it is a bit tricky.
Yeah, okay. Well, AI is there for you. You just let me know.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll ask it how do I play. I'll put in all of our videos and I'll say analyze everyone's play and tell me what I should be doing differently.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And then we can eventually get to the point where it runs the pod for us, and does the jokes and all that kind of stuff.
We don't even have to play the game anymore, right?
That's an even better point. Holiday for us. We were let's just check in and just see how amDirt are going.
Yeah.
a million subscribers, all that kind of stuff. We're like, oh,
and clearly the AI, is way more interesting than us. So,
all right. Let's go into a bit of, I was going to do our agenda. So on today's episode, we're going to do Dirtbag Mail. I've got a couple of comments that we'll go through. I find that sometimes we spend too much time on that, and I don't want to take that away from our listeners and viewers and all that kind of stuff, but it's more of an adjustment thing. For the last, 120 odd episodes of our podcast, we never really had it. Right. So trying to fit that into our schedule thing has been a bit of an interesting learning process, but I think we're getting better at it.
Yeah, like we always wanted people to, but we never had to actually. Occasionally, there was a message and we might talk about that as a topic or something. But now multiple people are writing in every week, which is awesome and what we asked for, but we didn't know how to deal with it. It's like we didn't account for that. So we have to figure it out. We're still feeling it all out.
Well, there's the Gaz and Detty tax where we can take something and then waffle on about it for ages and,
Yeah. Like this, like the idea 100%. Of getting mail, right?
We're doing it right now.
Could have just used this time to talk about what someone actually said, but we talked about the idea of what someone might have said and how we don't have time to talk about it. So it's brilliant.
Oh, amazing. We're going to the recap scenario 10, Mountain Pass, amDirt Diaries, and our topic for the week is burn cards. This is inspired by MexicanSuperman, who wrote a comment about, talking about just our thoughts on burn cards and things like tempo and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fairly general topic. I think maybe one we covered maybe 100 episodes ago or whatever, but these are because they're so central to the game and we learn a lot more as we go, as we play more of the game. Our opinions on things change as we evolve and get more experience, in the game. So it's always good to revisit these topics.
Yeah, and there's always a recency bias as well, depending on what class you're playing, right? Yep. So it's it is a good topic to come back to because they are cool.
Yes. All right. So Dirtbag, I got one message now lately, and this has just become a thing. It wasn't originally a thing, but it's become a thing. Tiny, who's recently joined our Discord and makes some very funny comments on our playthrough and podcast, has a habit of writing in a comment for the previous playthrough while we're doing the current playthrough. And halfway through the campaign, our session, when I've got a moment, I look at my notifications and I see it, and then I read it out to you, etc. It happened again this playthrough, but I didn't check my phone. Obviously, I was busy involved in the game, and that's probably a good thing. But I wanted to highlight it still, so I'm capping it over here. Gaz finally rolling well. Exactly when it will be retconned later is the kind of thing I tune into this channel for. Jokes aside, though, don't beat yourselves up too much. Mistakes happen, and everybody knows you're not trying to game anything on purpose. I think that's really important, actually, that we're not. Besides, it's almost impossible to play flawlessly with all the raw sexual tension at the table. Strategy-wise, I definitely second the comments about planning your door busts better with summoners in the scenario. I'm sure the next attempt will be smoother. P.S. Am I in time for your next playthrough again? I usually watch these on Monday morning EU time while starting up my workday. So you were, I just didn't read it. But I look forward to the fact that every single time you do this every week, and I'll try and catch you on the next playthrough so that you,
It's almost like we have one live viewer, right? Because we're playing while they're watching, but they're just a week behind.
Yeah, they're on a week delay.
Yeah, that's it. So it's kind of like we're streaming on Twitch, except that the delay time is a week. So people are commenting, and we're like, oh yeah, cool. So I love it.
Considering we can't really stream, right? It's the closest thing to streaming that we get.
That's exactly it. So welcome to being our first live viewer.
In the past. So the Coriolanus, I feel more confident saying that. It's when I pause afterwards that I think that maybe it gets the
I think you
giggles.
just enjoy saying it.
I do. I think posting lost scenarios is good. So uploading a video that where we lose. Watching knowing you'd only post a success would hurt the watching experience a little. I love that. And I agree. I'm trying to think of a situation where actually that was a thing with something that I used to watch where, it might have been, that's actually an esport thing. When something's a best of 3 and you can actually see that it only goes for 2 rounds and you're like, I already know. It's that kind of thing. You lose the tension.
Yeah, 100%.
Of watching it.
Yeah, and we did talk about that when we were discussing, like, not that we weren't going to upload the loss, but we were talking about how it would be received, the fact that it came down to the wire. And even the first one when we lost scenario 2, Right, and we didn't end up posting that because there was other issues around
Yeah.
having too much stuff to edit and all that. But we did discuss it then as well of like, well, this will still be a good watch because it comes down to the wire and people won't know that we won or lost. So yeah, it's good to get that feedback.
Yep. This scenario was from Gloomhaven original and seemed mostly unchanged. The only thing I remember being different was the Earth Demon room had a cultist this time. So that's what we had. I used to open the Earth Demon door and run away to the other room and let them slowly catch up. Putting a cultist in there makes that less effective as he'll summon. Phil going for the chest and not nuking the cultist probably was the turning point. I was a little disappointed as the chest used to be a trap. I thought that would have been poetic justice for Phil's greed, but apparently now it's a rod. I'd be fine watching you retry that one or playing a different one. A couple of weeks ago, you guys, it was about the Discord thing, which, by the way, we put a Discord link whenever anyone asks. I'll put one in this particular episode. We have a small community Discord where people discuss the playthrough kind of as they're watching and happening, as well as just talking about general Gloomhaven stuff amongst themselves. So I'll pop that in the comments so that people can, join.
Yeah, and if you do join, we are really good with spoilers, and all the people in there are really good with spoilers. So you won't. It's not like if you join and you haven't played heaps, then you're going to just see heaps of answers. Obviously, we discuss the things that happened in our scenario, but usually, if they are spoilers, then people spoiler tag them. So
yeah, I'm glad you guys work so hard for all of us who love these Haven games to put out such a great show. So thank you so much for that. Again, we will continue to. I want to say put out losses when they happen, which is true. I just don't want to think that that's going to be a regular thing, right?
I mean, now everybody's going to be wondering going like, did they lose this? Because we didn't say anything, right?
Exactly. And there's no hint in the description or anything like that. It's literally, you just have to watch it and see, right? Unless you scroll down to the comments when you're midway through watching it, then I think that you can spoil it for yourself.
That's it. Yeah. It's probably a good idea not to do that.
Yeah. But. All right, Peter K said, in case this influences any future monster spotlights, while enemies may have been changed from first edition to Frosthaven or first edition to Jaws of the Lion, any enemy that was in Frosthaven is the exact same in second edition.
Okay, interesting.
Which I didn't know.
No, neither did I.
That said, enemies like cultists and living corpses that were not in Frosthaven were a fair game for changes to be made to them. And obviously many enemies were changed a bit going from first edition to second edition if you don't consider Jaws of the Lion or Frosthaven. As in first edition, we still had things like range on enemy stat cards instead of ability cards. So that's really good to think about so that we spend less time going, oh, wow, they have this when we... like, which I want to point out, I think it's still a good thing that we aren't as knowledgeable in knowing all of these things, so that when you are watching it, like, we didn't know wind demons could heal. We should, based on how much we've played the game, especially Frosthaven, but you still get a raw response of, they can heal.
They can heal, yeah. 100%. And that's the thing. I'm kind of glad to know that, because cultists got a little bit more gross, right? I think the change is great for the game,
fantastic,
but they're definitely like more of a threat than they were. They used to be a better kill it quickly, or arguably like being able to summon every turn without the stun. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not weighing that up. But I was wondering whether like flame demons and some of those cool monsters were also going to get like just a slight touch up and just be even more crazy. But knowing that they've come from Frosthaven, no, they can't. So it doesn't mean we won't still be surprised by all 8 of their cards that they turn over. But at least we're safe to know that we're dealing with the same monster we dealt with all of Frosthaven. So
calling it right now, when we first get to flame demons, good example, and even light demons, we'll throw them in there as well because we haven't had those yet in Gloomhaven 2nd edition. But when we first come across those and there's one on like 3 health or whatever, we are going to question whether or not they can heal. Because can you answer me right now? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
No,
if this was a quiz, I would probably guess yes.
Based on the history that we've got, I would also assume yes. Like, just based on wind demons and earth demons, like,
But even now, if you ask me if wind demons could heal, I would say probably not. And we just saw it. Discussed it. So.
It could have been a special rule.
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Let's jump onto our recap of Scenario 10. Scenario 10, which was Ice Mountain, Mountain Pass. Ice Mountain sounds cooler. We had 2 events going into it. We had City Event 17, we had Road Event 18. City Event 17, a funky smelling man approaches us with a flower pinned to his jacket. He needs our help in getting a suspicious looking crate through some guarded gates. He begins to leak black stuff from his mouth, which he quickly wipes away, which really adds to his ability to babysit children, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
He realizes that because he's so odd, he'll get the attention of the guards. But with our party consisting of a murder hoboing assassin, an unlucky rat, and a midget with a cardboard cutout, we should have no problems bypassing the guards with a suspicious box. Do we help him or dob on him? And when I was writing that, I was like, dob. Is that a well-known word? I had to do some research on the word dob, as I think it could be Australian or Australian English. And then Google told me to dob on, to inform on someone. Likely comes from British dialect words for hitting or throwing, especially related to children's games like marbles, where dobbing means hitting a target. This meaning evolved in UK Australian slang from the 1800s to signify fingering someone, which I sat there for a while going, ooh. But I think it means to point.
Point at, yes, just steady. All right, good. Well, I'm glad we got that update on dobbing. So, yep.
Yeah, so this is more to the American people who may not know what dobbing is. It's tattling.
Tattletelling.
Do we tattle on him?
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah. 100%.
And in saying that, what did we do?
Well, it came down to a vote, Gaz. I don't know if you remember that.
And what did two people outvote me for?
Oh, we wanted to tell on him.
The snitch.
We wanted to finger him. So we basically said, hey, guards, I think according to the card, we subtly pointed to the crate and we're like, that, dodgy. And they immediately understood and they came over, they set up a little ambush on him. And then, yeah, he got absolutely pinned. And then he said something. He said,
I'll get you next time.
He spat ichor at us. And then he said, demons, remember, don't forget. And then that was it. So
good. I'm glad that you angered the demons. Well done.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to remember this exact outcome. It's just the reputation for the demons went down slightly, right?
Forever.
And the military went up. And all the while, the merchants are sitting there like, guys.
Yeah. Well, our military shield people have been our highest reputation now, yet we're still trying to focus on merchants.
It's typical. That's typical.
Yeah.
We got an item out of it. We got Gust Striders out of it, which were boots that, well, the only shoeless person was me. So we decided to gift me with some shoots, which, by the way, I think we're due for maybe an item breakdown probably sometime soon. Not from a hits and shits point of view, but maybe just an item discussion in general about some of the new items that come through, because we've actually had some interesting ones. And these ones are basically you add jump to your movement abilities. And if wind is up, and only if wind is up, you can add +2 and it's just +2, isn't it? The jump is part of it.
Yeah, they jump boots, and if wind is up or waning, then you get the +2. And that's what's cool about those, is that it doesn't consume the wind. So if you have a character that uses and is going to generate wind for abilities, you can kind of do a bit of both. So that's cool.
That could be a new thing, because that's quite rare, isn't it? That could be a new thing that they could be then playing with items, with element needing to be up, but you don't actually consume it, which is good and bad, right? Because I couldn't deny them from the wind demons in this scenario.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it would be cool to have a look at the items. I'd be keen to when we get new ones. I don't know when that will be. I assume the next prosperity, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do it then, and we can review all what we had and what we got. And I know that there's a few good utility items in there. So let's have a chat about them, about all the items and the slots that they go in.
That's true. That's very true. And we can, by that stage, our military rank will be through the roof, so we'll have all of those items as well.
Correct.
Which would be awesome.
Just as well as FYI for people, because I don't think we've talked about this maybe much, is that we're not actually looking at the items that we unlock based on the factions, because they're in the pile, but I think when we're searching through, we're just stopping. So we haven't chosen which faction we want to focus on based on anything other than like they sound cool, let's do them.
And the focusing is purely verbal, by the way. It's not like we've had a million options to raise the merchants and go, hey, let's focus on them. We've picked it without any any opportunity to really focus on them. So It just shows that, yeah, we probably should just go with the flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think it's good to have a focus. Whether we achieve our goals or not is irrelevant, right? But I think that must be a sign of the demons, the like black goo stuff, the ichor that he had, because I think there was another one that referenced it as well. So maybe that's kind of the I don't know, the signs where you can maybe deduce you're working towards that or not. So,
Hmm.
they'll give you this signposting, which is a cool idea. The military might just be, if you're doing military type guard stuff like we did, we kind of helped, the safety of Gloomhaven. And the merchants, I don't know, just be encouraging commerce or whatever it is. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not sure. In fact, there's probably a really good description of exactly what I just said in the rule book where it talks about the different factions. But like, hey, let's just figure it out, right?
There's
Why
probably
would we
also
read
an
the rule book?
episode where I think I read out what I could find in the rulebook on
Yeah.
that as well. But I mean, we move on, forget. Road event 18. We spot a well-fed raven outside Gloomhaven, and when it sees us approach, it flags us down. Attached to its leg is a parchment tied with black ribbon. It's wax sealed with the symbol of a serpent wrapped around a dagger. We open it, and it reads, "It has been nearly a month since your last check-in. Advise immediately whether you have installed the puppet stewards as agreed." And then the raven awaits a response. So there's a lot to break down here, and I don't know any of it. So our options were we either report that the preparations are on track, we report that this went to the wrong person, or we can report back with a surprise, which actually required someone having APQ.
Okay. Which none of us had.
None of us had, but very unique again. From a option point of view, it's already kind of weird that we're starting to see more option Cs, but also having more requirements and now tapping into, PQs further niches things down. But yeah, I love it. I love the addition of it.
Yeah, it does seem really cool. And the only thing is I'm curious because, like, what was the outcome of this? I remember.
No
but, like,
effect. So we basically
Yeah.
just were like, everything's fine. And it was like, cool. And then it left and then no effect.
yeah. And so the only thing that sucks about this is that I really want to know what that leads to. But now, if we do have that PQ, this event's gone and we can't get it again.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, I'm sure that in the whole scheme of things, you'll get some and you won't get some, right? And then this adds to the level of replayability for the event deck specifically, which is
Correct.
cool. But from us wanting to experience everything in one run through, it, it hampers that. So, yeah, but it was cool. I like it.
Yeah. I think we haven't run into too many of those. This is the first, I think, no effects event we've had. I think everything's had some kind of effect, and choice driven things, whether it be from the section book or something like that. This is the first one that was a real fizzer, but only from the outcome. I think the intrigue and everything like that is all there, and it was really cool, and it doesn't, like you said, encourage replayability to see what that is, or just let's delve into the spoilers and work out what it all leads to, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that I assumed that there would be some kind of event put in the deck when we made our choice, right? Because we're writing a message back to whoever it is, and then they will react to it in some way. But it seems like they don't, and we won't know why they don't react to it at all unless you are a specific person on a specific quest. So yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to more things like this, and I just hope we get to experience more of them than not.
Yep. All right, so scenario 10, Mountain Pass. Gloomhaven's military spy master Gantz sends the party to investigate a mythical dragon who, according to the locals, are responsible for missing herds this season. We head for Ice Crag Peak, which is the tallest mountain in the Copperneck Mountain ranges. And in order to get there, we need to traverse through the Northern Pass, which is a narrow corridor known for rock-chucking bands of Inox. We wander through, keeping an eye out for any Inox activity, when suddenly rocks start falling from the sky. It's a trap! Or is it? I mean, we kind of knew that this was incredibly likely to happen, so it's probably not a trap, it's more the thing we thought would happen, because it's the most likely scenario is currently happening. This scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. At the end of that round, we read a thing. The scenario is made up of 5 tiles. It's made up into a gauntlet-style map. The monsters we have are Earth and Wind Demons, Inox Archers, and Inox Guards. The special rules were at the end of the 6th round, and each round after that, characters occupying certain tiles. In the beginning, it was the starting 2 tiles will take hazardous damage, and this indicates that an avalanche is coming down on us. And then as you proceed through the scenario, more tiles will take on this special rule. The roll call, we had Phil, level 3 Silent Knife, Gaz, level 2 Mindthief. Were you 3 yet for this?
Yeah. Okay. Remember we did that whole thing where we talked about how I needed 1 more XP?
Yeah. I just feel like I haven't edited that for a while.
I know. The thing is, you're biased because you've got a character that's like spins XP like it's a roulette wheel, right? Like it's just constantly going up and up and up.
Hey, I need something. And Detty, myself, on the level 3 Tinkerer. We did this on a +1 difficulty, so we didn't actually lower it for after our loss. We kept it at +1, which made this scenario level 3. How it went, do you need to jump in with anything before I just jump into our recap?
Oh, no, I guess just first thoughts from, I guess, the scenario setup and then maybe a room or 2 in once we found the special rules about the collapsing and then that continuing, the scenario setups, and we talked about this a lot in Frosthaven around no prep round, right? So for early in the podcast, a lot of Frosthaven wanted you to just get into the action straight away without having to spend a turn or 2 setting up, playing cards, and a lot of the classes in Frosthaven benefit from some kind of like persistent out or just stuff like that. And I thought this was again another really good way to just subtly push you, like. If you have the ability to delete them all in 2 turns, great. Well, you can probably spend a turn not doing anything. The archers were far enough out of range that it was unlikely they were going to hit anything unless we moved up slightly. So you still, again, could sit there. And Earth Demons don't move very fast. So, I mean, there is a world in where you get away with just chilling and doing your thing, which is good. So it's kind of like, again, gives you the option. Whereas that there were quite a few scenarios in Frosthaven, and I liked it in Frosthaven. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it definitely did force you into you need to act now, which is cool because it gets the whole thing moving. But I like the setup for this with like the archers really far away down a corridor, the Earth Demons up front that you're going to have to smash through because they're in the way because there's boulders and shit everywhere. And then at the end of 6 turns, you're just going to start taking damage. The scenario isn't lost. It's not take 10 damage. So it's not like, if you don't get out this door within 6 rounds, then you're just cooked, right? It's just you can adjust for it. So, I just thought the setup and the, I guess the gimmick, without the negative connotation the gimmick can have, is the kind of was quite clever for, again, what is a kill-all.
Yes.
Right? Again, and we've talked, again, about that in the past of, kill-all with a twist.
Yes.
And the twist here is, well, you got to keep moving. You can't just kill a room and then just sit there and heal back up and get all your cards back. You just got to keep going because it's not going to stop.
Got to keep moving.
Yeah, so that's just initial thoughts from that. I was I think at the start I was quite interested in it, and by the end of it, I think it delivered on what it was trying to do. So it was very clever. No,
I agree with you, and I'm interested actually hear kind of final thoughts on that kind of stuff as we delve into that just after this. So the party began by strategizing with the previous week's loss on how to play better and be less shit. Then Detty immediately summons Dwarf into a death hex for no reason, spends a whole turn attempting to heal nothing before missing an attack 9 crankbow. You would think he's doing this on purpose. No one could possibly be this stupid. He has a meltdown as he finally understands what Gaz has been going through, and he doesn't like it. Someone who did seem to like it was Gaz, who had the biggest shit-eating grin on his face that Detty didn't even notice at the time, but editing Detty did and decides to zoom in on the occasion. Have you watched the playthrough? Did you see that?
I have only just started it. I haven't had a chance to work through it. No, I have not. And was I pretty happy with how that situation was?
You were so happy. Just so happy. Not laugh out loud happy, just the smile. The pure, how you can see smiling and then there's real deeper, within happiness. That's what I saw.
And to be fair, and I can't remember back to then, but I don't feel any ill will where I'm glad if you fail or I'm glad you draw the null. It's not yes, I'm taking pleasure out of this. But maybe it's just again, it's that shared trauma type situation. It's someone being oh, I'm in this really situation. And it's a comfort of hey, me too.
Me too movement. Yeah. Love that.
Now there's 2 of us. So, or at least you get a piece of how it feels. So.
I've had a taste, and I already I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you
had a sip.
I don't know
That's
how
it.
you
You've
deal
had a
with it.
sip, and I've been drinking from the barrel.
Yeah, I don't want that anymore. Thank you. Phil begins munching on the other demons as the archers start setting up traps, which is quite dumb as Detty and Gaz use the force to cause them to eat them themselves. And the first room is pretty much taken care of. Although that Detty guy apparently needs a moment to pick up a few coins while rocks start falling on him. Phil opens the door into the corridor and is met by some Inox guards and 2 wind demons who begin closing in on him. He continues his streak of amazing tanking with his ability to draw nulls and red cards from the monster AMD, and is probably the biggest tempo play in the scenario as he uses hidden daggers with the Pierce Persistent to remove both wind demons, leaving just the guards who were hellbent on making Shield retaliate with no movement a thing. The trio dance around the guards with some focus fire and forced movement and head towards the final door with Phil, the Silent Knife beelining for the chest. And I didn't have enough time to do this, but I'm going to keep a chest watch just, to add to the stats, to get an idea of, a chest tally, just for reasons.
I mean, I think that the stats are I've had one, you've had one, Phil's had all of the rest.
Except for the one that I apparently missed that everyone keeps reminding me maybe counts as one that I should have had.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So that's on you.
Damn it, I thought you were on my side here.
I am. You missed the chest. You could have had 2.
Gaz opens the final door, which really only has 2 wind demons and 2 earth demons, so it's not too bad. Oh, except that the earth demon, the elite earth demon, is literally right on the other side of the door, which is weird. And they're doing ranged attacks. I think they only had 1, and of course they chose to do that. So this causes Gaz to back out and run towards Phil, as the Tinkerer, who is long resting right behind him, is like, oh, okay. And he suddenly becomes the target for the juicy monsters. Detty does catch a break, though, as the monsters whiff a few attacks. And now the group spend a bit of time trying to work out how best to breach this disgusting defense, while also worrying about the constant avalanche happening in the corridor. The group decide on a all guns blazing approach as they fly into the room with a Detty flamethrower doing absolutely nothing as he draws his second null. Gaz mind controlling an earth demon who draws a null against its ally, a null that was about to be used on Detty, and Phil jumping in to throw a few more punches before exhausting, but not before a huge fatality to destroy a wind demon, which was probably another big swing turn for the party. Gaz and Detty then 2v2 the earth demons, and it is tense as these bins hit real hard, and some of the rounds literally feel like they came down to how well the earth demons are drawing. But with some actual clever play from Gaz and supporting from Detty, the 2 down the final earth demon with a round or 2 to spare. After last week's loss, this was a much needed win. And even though morale isn't in the game, it has well and truly increased. So, I keep wanting to say Ice Mountain, Mountain Pass, Mountain Hall, something to do with the mountain. How did you feel about Scenario 10?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think in the end, the falling rocks thing was a simple yet effective mechanic to not only move people through, but like getting to that last room. That last room where you open up the door, if you don't have any urgency, then everyone can just run back and hide and wait for the earth demons to like slowly move forward, the wind demons quickly move forward. It just becomes, I don't know, not really a challenge from that sense. You're more just like mathing it out. And so that added a cool little extra twist when, like, I opened the door and they were there throwing rocks, right, and shooting wind beams or whatever they do, right, and I probably could have moved back a little bit and been fine, but I couldn't move back a little bit because I didn't want to take 2 damage, so I had to move back really far, and then that created another challenge where I'm like, well, now I have to move really far to get back in. So again, I thought clever, and the setup was quite good.
It only just occurred to me because I think we've had scenarios where we want to open the door, but we want to have enough movement. And a lot of the times on characters that I'm playing, I'm usually pairing, if I'm the door opener, pairing the top with either a multi-attack AoE or a pull or a push or something to try and snipe something. And 9 times out of 10, there's nothing in range, right? It's always, they're conveniently at the back and it's ancient artillery and all that kind of stuff and a summoner and all that. This is the perfect situation because there's an earth demon and he's right outside the door, which would have been great. But it's only just hit me now. The whole reason one's been placed there from, Isaac, who designed the scenario, is because of the special rules with the corridor. It's literally because, right?
Yeah,
to give you the exact scenario that we were just in.
Yeah, correct. Because if all 4 monsters were at the back of the room, then we would have just run in there and stood still, right? But yeah, you've got this block that you have to get past, and it's very easy for people to quickly block the door and create this like issue with that. And it means that if you've got range characters, like I guess if you had the Spellweaver, or I'm not sure what other range characters there are, you can't just sit out of the door and pew pew away.
Yep.
Again, it forces everyone in there, or you just cop taking the hits,
Yep.
which again, I think was only 2 damage.
Yeah.
So it's not like
But without health pools, like especially yours with 7.
oh well, yeah, exactly. That's almost like a third of my health. So it is a large percentage of my health, but it's not like, again, it's doable to say, well, I'll take this hit here of 2 damage rather than getting hit by 3 enemies. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Kill all with a twist, I think, is the perfect way that you've put it. And I think that so far with second edition, now that we're probably about 5 or 6 scenarios in, they've done a really good job of providing that kill all feel, like I said, with the twist. And this, I hate timers in games. Obviously, we don't want that pressure of knowing that, oh, we've got this looming spawn timer or something like that. This is the best way to put a timer because it's on us. How effectively we clear that first room determines how badly we're going to take damage from the thing, right? It's like the Frozen Hollow, I think, with Hail. That's a timer in that, but it's one that we're in a lot of control with. It's kind of like with this, probably less control, but it's still a timer that is enjoyable to have it and not, an impending. It's not oxygen in an underwater level. That timing is horrible. That feel, that stress.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? When it comes to, say, using unlimited spawns as a urgency mechanic in a scenario, which we kind of saw used. It was new-ish, I think, for Frosthaven was used quite a bit. I feel like in a lot of scenarios, it doesn't give you agency. It takes agency away because it basically says, you need to do this really quickly, and then you need to go to this part because you can't beat the wave, right? Like, they're going to go forever. And it maybe gives you an objective to stop the spawns or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, you have to go here. Whereas this one with, the falling rocks and the timer, or even the hail one with the monsters spawning behind us, because there weren't unlimited spawns in and around us. They were like, they're back there, and there's a chance they summon, there's a chance they run after you. But it gives you agency, like, as in, one of the things I think you were going to do in the hail scenario was drop dwarf and run, right? And in the end, you ran forward, and I just was like, well, you're going to take care of that, so I'll just stand here and fight things. If I die, it doesn't really matter. But that gave us choices.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, I think that having those clever ways that put some urgency into it, but don't go, you now have to do this. You have to move really quickly. You have to kill things really quickly, and you have to get out of this room because there's going to be a million monsters in here. It's a good feeling as a player because you feel in control, even though you still have to work within the parameters. So yeah, again, I'm looking forward to see what other ways they use, that those type of timers and stuff to drive the scenario forward.
Yep. And the special rules are also not going to scare off people who weren't a big fan of Frosthaven. They wanted more of the Gloomhaven feel. I think there's enough twist there that it keeps it fresh, but it's also, the rules are really easy to understand, right? Anyone can really navigate them and go, okay, it's really easy to understand as a concept. It's not like an instant wipe. We just need to move from this room to another. Otherwise we take damage, and damage is bad. And then other than that, it's still a kill-all with some very interesting monsters. We still have a mixture of high shield with the wind demons. We still have the Inoxes with obviously their archers, using an archer deck. And I think they've got the difference of the innate wound, which gives us a whole other little, puzzle to solve around. The guards aren't shielding. They've got shield ability cards, but they've got innate retaliate. So we still get to work with that. And then, of course, earth demons, which are just HP sponges.
Yeah,
that hit real hard, but we never want to acknowledge that because we put them in the bin.
in the bin. And they've actually been a challenge in the last few scenarios we fought them, but no, they're still in the bin. Yeah, and that's another good point, is that I think that what I've found for the last probably all the scenarios, maybe bar scenario 1, because it was kind of more of an intro scenario, is that the scenario design has really lent into the monsters being the puzzle, not the scenario being the puzzle.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, I mean, that's the core thing, right? You've got a hand of cards that all 90% of them interact with the monsters, right? Or get you in position where you can, or support someone else to do that. So the monsters are like absolutely critical to the enjoyment of it, because they're those set pieces that you play around. And when you've got arbitrary special rules that you can't control, you can't interact with, you don't really have any way of mitigating, that can almost take a little bit of feeling away from the game. And it's more about like, here is the outside noise, go do your thing, and you're just going to get impacted by stuff that happens. So I think the monster selection becomes critical, right? Like, and I think that's been the case in the last 2 or 3 scenarios. We talked about this last week. And that's been, I think, on point for making the scenario challenging without going like, I don't know, without some dumb special rule that just makes us be like, oh, this sucks.
Yep. Do you think, this is a question without notice, well, pretty much everything is. We didn't really think about this. I mean, if we were to put ourselves in to where we were in Frosthaven around now, it would have been roughly around, I don't know, episode 6 or 7, Raven's Roost kind of thing, which is funny because we were talking about the no prep, pressure at the start, and that one's got those, I think it was the Yetis, right? And they turned into something. I can't remember what they turned into.
The Shriek fiends.
That's it. Perfect.
If you hit them and don't kill them, yeah.
Yeah. We are now focusing a lot more on, the monster choices and all that now discussions, and paying a lot more attention to that. Has that changed from Frosthaven in the way we think about it and we appreciate it more? Is that due to experience, or is that just due to how much tighter and well-designed Gloomhaven 2nd Edition is?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I feel like when we started Frosthaven, we were new to Haven again, because we hadn't played Gloomhaven IRL, at least, for a really long time. And so a lot of the stuff we were doing in Frosthaven was like remembering how the game works and jumping through all that. Plus, you had all the new mechanics and things. Whereas at 2.0, or the 2nd edition at the moment, seems to be like, when you boil it down to its basic pieces, right, and then make them really shine. Like I said, the scenario design, the length, the monsters, and those little things all play into a massive thing, like where the obstacles are and where the traps are. And it's not to say that that wasn't the case in Frosthaven, but Frosthaven kind of had a lot of frills on it. Like, there was a lot of things going on in a lot of scenarios. And I know that's been some of the criticism. It's like, sometimes there's too much. I don't think there was too much, because it's the game that it is, and I think it would have been a different game if that hadn't been there.
Yeah.
But Gloomhaven seems to have gone like, let's go back to basics, but we can't make it basics and boring, right? I'll use vanilla as the example, right, which we talk about ice cream all the time.
Hey, Lunacies, just say hi.
It's more like, keep it basic, but really make sure that those pieces there are going to be impactful. And I think maybe that's why we're more focused on those things now. Because we are playing a slightly harder difficulty, which means the monster actions mean more. But the types of monsters, we need to counter them.
Yeah.
Like, we're not running with a party of like just unstoppable killing machine stuff, which kind of felt like that when we played Crimson Scales. And I feel like that's because that's more like Gloomhaven 1st edition.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can build a super powered party and you can just steamroll everything. And that's why people were playing it +2, +3, or whatever they were on Gloomhaven. So, yeah. So I don't know if we're focusing on less on purpose. I think it's just that's where the game is focusing us. And that's the puzzle to solve, which I think is a really, really positive step for the design of the game.
I really like how you mentioned Frosthaven, and we started amDirt because of Frosthaven, which in the grand scheme of things is probably the most complex of the games, bar Forgotten Circles. I don't know how difficult that is, because we haven't looked into it, but it's almost like we've gone from, you're right, we probably couldn't appreciate so much the monsters and the ways we think right now, because back then everything was all new to us and we're too busy taking in all of the crazy special rules and all of that kind of stuff. Now we can take a step back and actually look at things a little bit differently, and look at, playing it on, a slightly higher difficulty, and pay more attention to the monster types and all of that kind of stuff. But no, it's really interesting that, we started at a very kind of complex kind of area, and amazed that we actually got through all of that, and now get to look at it through different lenses. And it hasn't made this feel like, you know how you go back to like baby's first version of a game? It's like playing my first Katana or something like that. We haven't gone back and it had that feeling of, wow, this is too simple and too dumbed down. Yeah.
It's interesting because that was a big danger that I felt, and I never thought it was going to happen because I had a lot of confidence with what they'd done, and I'd heard about like the wide scale kind of updates that they'd made to second edition. But that's always the danger, right? When you revamp something that was an original idea, and you don't want to go too far away from that idea, but then at the same point you have to make it new, and I think they've absolutely nailed that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm actually, intrigued. I think so far none of the scenarios we've played will potentially, and I'm jumping the gun here, feature in maybe a top 10 scenarios of Gloomhaven second edition. But I'm curious as to when we get to that point and when we revisit some of these scenarios, if any of these will feature and, you know, what a top 10 scenario is going to look like. Because is it fair to say that these have all been really good? Like they're really fine, but nothing that's been like mind-blowing, unless you're about to tell me that, no, last week's Lost scenario was amazing, right?
No, I 100% agree. I think that, like, this is the thing, right? When you're going through 100 scenarios, they can't all be top 10, bottom 10, right? And I know math-wise that's obvious, but they can't all be fighting for that position. You need to have some that are just your Monster of the Week style scenario, right? And you think about your classic shows like the X-Files and Supernatural and all this kind of thing that would just occasionally have an episode in it that was just like, hey, they go out and do a quest and they come home and then they're done and you finish. And you need that as a bit of a refresh. It's still fun and it's still entertaining, but it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, well, we're always pushing for this to be the best scenario. It's just got to do its job. And, you know, those are almost most of what you play, right?
It's going to be interesting.
You know, yeah, so I agree. I don't think any of these will feature in our top 10 or our bottom 10, but I think that's a good thing.
Well, also a lot of the scenarios that we've done have been designed by Isaac himself, right? So the minute you start throwing in guest designers, remember, where a lot of people, there were conversations about designers trying to one-up each other with how crazy they could make their scenarios, right? And these are community, you know, speculated conversations. That's where, I think it'll be kind of spicy to see. You get one shot. Hey, you know, Gaz, you've got to create one scenario. How crazy are you going to make it? Are you going to make it like a fairly, like you said, vanilla, which is a good thing, or are you going to go all balls to the wall?
Well, yeah, 100%, right? Because if you're a guest designer, you've been asked, and I mean, a lot of these people are game designers anyway, so they're not really going like, well, this is my 10 minutes or whatever of like my only chance to do anything. But like if they ask me to make one, part of that thing would be like, well, how do I make this stand out? And as soon as you start trying to make it stand out, that means something's got to be different, which means it's not going to be in that core, safe, fun, well-balanced and enjoyable scenarios. It's going to be on one extreme. It's going to be crazy in something, and that's either going to be really good or really shit. And so you do run into that issue. But I was just thinking about it then. I reckon scenario 14 in Frosthaven would have been within our first 10 or so scenarios. Maybe our first 20.
I reckon,
right?
Yeah, around there. Around like top 50, like first 15 or something.
Because it's one of the really early lurker ones, right? I actually think it's the second lurker one in the lurker chain. You do the first one where you got to run and kill some idiot, and then you like into scenario 14. But that's like at the top of our worst scenario list, right? So there are examples of like scenarios that are just less fun experience coming in early. So again, it's not to say like, oh, we've only gone through 5 scenarios, so we're not going to see a really crazy one for the first 20 because Frosthaven threw them at you all over the place.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, it's interesting. Again, I think it's by choice. I assume it is. I give the designers and the design team credit. But the flow so far has been really good.
No.
So thoughts on this scenario?
No, I really liked it. I think it was time I'd done right. Good monster variety, and I'm really I'm loving this game. I'm loving the campaign. I'm looking forward to every single Monday where we get together and play. And I can't fault it at the moment. There's actually nothing. If I had to sit here and be like, oh, I wish this was different or that was different, I don't actually, wish any of that really. I'm just 100% strapped in and just going for a ride.
Yeah. I'm not asking for changes. I would have loved the calendar system though, because I thought the calendar in Frosthaven was awesome. But it's not a criticism. It's just like there's obviously it needs to be jammed in somewhere, and then that can be the piece that pushes it over from being fun to admin, right? So it's a delicate balance. It's a house of cards, and I think, yeah, you're right. Everything we've encountered so far has been top quality. And I'm looking. Let's set the bar high though, right? Like I expect everything to be like this.
Yeah. It's very interesting about the calendar system and why it wasn't implemented. And we probably won't get an answer, although Dwarf is writing right now. Future Dwarf is writing right now as to why that is. And it wasn't included. But I think that like the calendar system was used predominantly in my head because obviously you've got the rule already of, you know, if you complete a scenario, you head back to Frosthaven. And that'll be the same for Gloomhaven if you have a Force link unless you have a Force link. But it was just to highlight key things that needed to happen in your campaign for you to, you know, get to certain points, right? And they could still do that. You know, you could still have those things that you want the party to have, whether it be, I mean, the enhancing thing was tied to a scenario that you couldn't avoid. So it's not like, you know, you're not going to get that. But surely there are other key things that you could introduce to the group, unless they've just done that all mainly through main quests, which you're going to have to do anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Frosthaven calendar system, it's weird. I reckon it was primarily there to push you through the seasons because there was a winter and a summer, you know, event decks, which was very different to how all that worked in.
Because Gloomhaven doesn't have seasons. It's just
No, but like I feel like that I don't know, but I'm like that seemed like the main reason to have a calendar, and then the sub kind of benefit was that you could have events that dropped in things that were going to happen in 2 or 3 or 4 whatever weeks. It's almost like that's the part of that I liked more. Like I thought the seasons were great, and this isn't a Frosthaven review, but like I thought they were great. Like from the calendar system, I'd be perfectly fine with just a thing that like seeded these events in that you knew were coming, because some of them created a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Like some of the you do a thing and you don't know the outcome. Like you did it, there's something bad's going to happen, and you're like, well, what? And it's like, put this in for 3 weeks, and you're like, oh, and then you kind of forget.
That's true.
And then you're coming up to it, and you're like, oh no, there's this event. Oh no, was this that bad thing that we did? And then you get the consequences. So it just creates slightly less randomness than the event deck does, where do a thing, put an event in there, and you will probably see it. You might not, but who knows? It's just going to come out of nowhere. So.
Yeah, okay. I forgot that it was also tied to a couple of because of it was tied to PQs and all that kind of stuff, right? When X amount of time changed, that was the only way you could really track it. You can't track it in the current system unless you're literally going to place an event into the event deck. But then there's just based on the way the event deck works, there's a chance you'll never draw it, right? So, all right. Well, thank you. That was a good topic on Frosthaven versus Gloomhaven again. What about, speaking of which, what about a Frosthaven NPC named, I don't know, Ormy? How would he go in a scenario like this?
I don't think he gets hit by rocks because he's not a character. So I think he's fine.
Actually, I didn't think of that because we don't really have, we don't really have summons, but obviously you and I both do. But we didn't really factor that in because a lot of the problems with some of the scenarios, at least in Frosthaven, they were very pet unfriendly because of the special rules. At least this one, they thought about that and it was only characters only, which is pretty interesting.
So I think he's fine, and generally any long scenario he's okay with because you can outpace him if there's lots of bad stuff. The first couple of rooms would be rough, like considering you placed a dwarf and then he insta-died. I mean, there's a good chance that's Ormy going like, don't worry guys, I've got this, and he just runs forward and takes 3 arrows to the face, and then we're like, awkward, I guess he's dead.
Yeah.
So, but if he can survive those first 2 or 3 turns, he would be okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think, first room, it's a lot of scenarios like that. First room permitting, if he gets through that just fine. I think for the rest of it, he's Gucci. Mostly because of his movement, right?
Yeah.
amDirt Diaries. I'll cover the Tinkerers just quickly. I am loving the deck building that we get to do at the beginning of every scenario. I think this is another really healthy, I don't know, I don't want to say change, but I think it's just because of the way that it could be an experience thing, right? And playing at a high difficulty. But I'm loving this sitting there and working out kind of what to bring every scenario. and I'm starting to piece together the return of my review videos for YouTube, basically. And I'm already putting some notes together, and the Tinkerer is starting to really feel like jack of all trades in a way. And I've said that about, the Drifter and other things, but it really does look like the Swiss Army knife of classes. Having things like healing, it's got buffs, it's got debuffs, it's got summons, it's got forced movement, it's got card retrieval, it's got movement cheese via teleportation pads, it's got crowd control, it's got damage increasing abilities, it's got big single target abilities that may or may not miss sometimes, it's got big AoE, and it's got big self movement. And these are all things that I've put together based on level 3. I'm not
So
to
you're
mention
saying it's the best class, right?
I'm saying it's probably hands down the most flexible. I think the playstyles for the Tinkerer are pretty endless. And I think that that's a big part of why the deck building process at the very beginning of a scenario is so fun, right? It's got 12 cards that I can bring in. So I'm lucky enough to already sit there and pick 12. But even picking 12 is really difficult. And I love that. I'm sitting there every single time. Am I bringing this? Am I not bringing this? Am I going to have the movement? And throughout this first however many scenarios we've done, there was always something that was lacking. I either lack movement, or I lack healing, or I lack, this particular one, if I had to sit there and say something, I was lacking AoE damage. I didn't bring either of my triangle cards. But that's what I mean. It's like the 12 button meme of which buttons am I pushing? To flesh out, the cards that I need for any given scenario. And it's fantastic. It just feels like every scenario is different and the puzzle's different.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to compare, but I think there's a element of us playing at 3 players means we don't have all the tools. So you have more options to bring more tools when you've got an extra player, right? And also we're playing at +1, so we have to be a lot more careful of the tools. Like we can't just go, oh, that thing's got shield, don't worry, we'll just punch it like heaps, because we've tried that and it doesn't work, right? We die. Or that's got retaliate. Well, okay, that's okay. It doesn't matter because we're playing at 0 and the damage is nothing. So I think that factors into it, us having to actually think about things. But yeah, I kind of agree. And maybe this will change at higher levels. I'm not sure. It could be but it seems less like you pick a path and then lock that path in, and then you choose 80% of the level 1 and X cards and then just take the level up card you chose each time. The level 1 and X cards do seem to be, there's a good amount of flexibility in there of cards you can take and not take. And I've actually tried out, I think, almost all the cards in the level 1 and X at some point in 5 scenarios or so, which I probably couldn't tell you I'd done that with any other class. Now that again could be a bit more because I'm still trying to figure out the right balance, and we are having to find more tools versus, Frosthaven, we played through the whole thing basically with 4 people. So yeah, I'm liking that aspect as well. It's looking at the monsters, looking at the scenario, and then going like, oh, this is actually a decision, rather than it's all right. Oh, I need movement. I'll just drop out 1 card, bring that 1 movement card, and I'm good.
Yep.
Or I'll bring my Pierce card. That's it. There's a little bit more to it than that. So
completely. And I think that in the video, when I do put it together, I think one of the things I want to focus on, other than the fact that it's obviously got all these different play styles, is that it's the perfect one to bring someone who may be new to the game. Someone who's new, that's like, if I was to bring like my partner into the game, and let's say Calvin was very, very new and didn't understand the whole process, and he's like, I just want to help you. I just want to support you. I don't care about, killing stuff and all that kind of stuff, but I just want to know that I've got your back. I've got things through heals and card retrieval and all that. You can play that play style, feel less pressured to perform, like to be able to pick a target and snipe it and land CC, and just, it's very pick up and play friendly. And I think that for someone who wants to play the ultimate support, I think it 100% can. And like the amount of times that I've gotten use out of getting a whole card back to elongate, either you or Phil, it just has such a big impact on the scenarios that, anyone who does that will feel good knowing that they can contribute incredibly heavily towards, the success.
Yeah, and from memory, the first edition Tinkerer also kind of had that, but I don't think it scaled very well. Because I only played it for a really small amount of time in digital, and I played it towards the end of the campaign. So I was starting on level 5 or 6 or something like that. So I remember going through and playing it, and I just felt like after playing a bunch of the other unlocked characters, playing the Tinkerer at level 7 or 8, it just felt significantly less powerful. And I don't know if that's because, for whatever reason, or if that's because those core base level 1 cards that you have to take a chunk of were a little bit weaker. But I think a lot of the first edition starters suffered from that. Which it definitely seems like it's been a focus for them to update. But yeah, I agree. Like it looks like a really flexible and fun character to play, where you get to pick your own path, which is good. Which is good. So
and I think you're right. I think it'll scale incredibly nicely. I think that it gives me an idea that one day I'll sit down with you and we'll do, I don't know, a reboxing series where we actually do look at the the first edition cards, just briefly go through them, and then, you know, separate things like level up choices and a bit of commentary on top of that, and really delve into what's changed and why, you know, first edition would be a great reminder for me, but, you know, why it didn't scale that well. Because right now I'm looking at it like it's got a couple of burns that hit really hard, but it's also got like an instant stun, right? It's got an instant stun at range 3 that, you know, you've got, which an instant stun scales. Yeah. Right. And poison application and you know, immobilize and all that kind of stuff. So I can see a world where, yeah, this you unlock this late game. You're not upset or disappointed, whereas you may have been in first edition.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And I'm sure people will leave comments who know the classes a lot better than us to talk about the reasons why. Like I said, that could have just been anecdotal and maybe I didn't give enough a chance, but that's what it felt like, and it was years ago that I did try it. But yeah, I'd be keen to know a little bit about, was it design or was it numbers, right? Were the numbers just not high enough on the cards, or were the cards just not designed well enough to actually have an impact when everyone else is doing ridiculous shit? So yeah, it's cool.
Mindthief.
Mindthief.
You just very quickly, you attempted a mastery, which is pretty cool.
I did. I've attempted it a couple of times, and I stopped trying to attempt it. Like in the first couple of scenarios, I was trying, and then I was like, "This is going to need more planning and me being better at the game to do." And then this one, I thought I could have a really good crack at it, and I did have a really good crack at it, and I got cucked in the first room. So the mastery I'm trying to do is I have to activate the triggered ability on 4 augments, different augments, 3 times each. So what that means is, say I play an augment out, it says when you do a melee attack, apply poison and muddle, right? I have to do that 3 times for that augment, and then I have to do that same process for 3 other augments.
Oh, that sounds hard.
It's weird. I think this type of mastery, I think, is the perfect type of mastery, because it's within the play style of the character, right? Because talking about XP and stuff like that, it wants you to swap and change between them. It's not just like, well, if you just play the game, you'll accidentally accomplish this. And because of that, it means that you don't have to be like, hey guys, I'm just going to book the scenario this time. Can you carry it? Right. So you don't get in these weird things where you've got to pick a bunch of cards that are useless because they form into it. And it also doesn't rely on you being level 5, right? Like there's certain masteries come to mind, like one of the Bone Shaper ones, which I think is actually impossible outside of some really weird situations to do until you get really high and get some extra cards. So it is doable. And what messed me up, if you haven't seen the playthrough, is I took the 4 masteries, I'd cycled through, I'd done maybe 1 or 2 of them in the first cycle, I'm not sure, maybe just 1 of them. I had 2 cards left in my hand. One of them was the rat, and one of them is I can't remember.
Feedback loop.
I think yeah. And so feedback loop reads that when you do a melee attack, then you get one of your summons to attack, right? So that's how you use the rats and do heaps of damage. It doesn't work, as Dwarf helped me find in the FAQ. It doesn't work if there's no summon out, right?
Oh.
Okay, so because the trigger doesn't happen.
Yeah, okay.
Right. The others do, which is weird but whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to discuss what isn't working. Anyway, the point being, I had 2 cards left in my hand, and I got hit for 5, and I was on 5 life. So
you got hit with disadvantage, and they pulled 2+1s, didn't they? It was like one of those situations, and you didn't amulet beforehand.
Didn't amulet beforehand because I'm an idiot and I never do. Yes, and that meant I lost a card. So because I lost a card, I had to lose either feedback loop, which is the thing I need to trigger to do my mastery, but the bottom of that has a jump for where you can muddle if you land in the same spot. Or I lose the rat, which even by itself is still okay, and it can take and soak some damage, it can put some poison out, and the bottom is a move 4. So both of them were move 4s, which I also wanted because it was a really long scenario.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just, so it kind of put me in a position. I ended up burning the rat because I thought that I was going to be able to make more use of a move 4 with jump than just a move 4. And yeah, I went with that. So that meant I couldn't do my mastery, which made me sad because I did the other 3 bits. So yeah, but it's cool. I'll give it another go the next scenario, assuming that the only thing I've got to be careful of is that the rat is an okay scenario to bring in. So if anything's got retaliate, I'm probably not going to do it. This one was okay because it was only one of the monsters with retaliate. So
yeah, okay. The thing that a lot of people and also Google Gemini are talking about with the ice thing, right?
Yep.
Like, because I don't know your cards very well. That's the stun that I've seen you do, right? On the bottom, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like an eat ice to stun something adjacent to you, and then you get to move 3, I think it is.
Yeah, okay. And that's got XP tied to it.
Yeah. Consuming the element on that one, and I think there's another card that you can consume the element on to get an XP.
Yeah, okay. No, that's good to know.
So the reason that I haven't lent into it, well, I guess this scenario specifically, is that, well, I was trying to do the mastery, so I'd take 4 cards, right? I get to pick 10. So I'd take 4 cards to have the 4 augments. Then I had to take a 5th card, which is the rat. So that's 5 out of the 8. And then you've got things like Hidden in the Shadows.
Hidden in the Shadows.
Well, the Pilfer was up for an optional
Is it?
dropping. It was on the cutting like board, or maybe it was like talked about going to the chopping block. That's the right word. Yeah, but there's just like by the time I get through a couple of those other cards that I really need, I was just like, I can't fit in a good generation and a good spender. Because like,
is your generator tied to a card that you don't rate?
Yeah. I don't think it's that great unless you want the ice, because I think like the top's
It's the range immobilize, right?
No, that's the level 2 card. I do take that because that's
hostile takeover.
Yeah, that's right. So that's an ice generator. So I do have access to that. But again, that's really specific. I don't want to, if I'm mostly melee. So if I want to generate ice and I'm next to Snake, I don't really want to do that, but I don't know. There's options. But the other ice generator it's just an attack 3 create ice. So it just doesn't feel that good. So yeah, it's kind of like that balance. But the week before, I did take a few of them, and I did generate a little bit of XP through that. So I just need to get the balance right.
Bit of stratting right now. I have a perk that I haven't picked because I just don't think it's useful, but it could be. Is every time I play a burn ability, I can generate an element. Is that going to be useful? Okay, your eyes just lit up.
Well, yeah, I suppose it probably would be. I guess it depends on timing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But look, if ice was up more often, I definitely would make use of it.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm okay with just generating that myself.
Yeah, okay. Because obviously I don't use them and Phil doesn't use them. So, and we don't really hear you go, oh, if only ice was up. So because of that, we don't really, just haven't had a elemental focus.
There is the other thing though, where if you took that trait or that perk, right? When the monster cards flip over and they're like, oh, if the ice demon's eating fire, it takes 2 damage or whatever. That's not really a thing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could be a useful niche use of it as well. When you're like, pick your cards, and you're like, well, if I burn this, I can generate this, and that's going to negatively impact, those guys. So yeah, there's probably a little bit more use for it. But yeah, when 2 of the 3 characters don't really use elements and one of them doesn't really care, it doesn't seem a good perk to get.
No, I'll think about it. There's also the fact that my AMD is still incredibly vanilla right now, and seeing all those +0s that came pouring out last week, a part of me is just like, oh yeah, let's start with fixing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on Mindthief?
Well, I hit level 3, so I do get to pick. I can't remember the cards. I remember it was like one
brain explosion
card. Yeah, well, there was 2. There was one fairly cool card that I can't remember what it does, but I think it has a bottom attack. And I'm like, that's really handy.
Oh, the strengthen
auto attack
one.
and then strengthen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like strengthen is the cure to
You.
most of my illness, right? Yeah, like issues. So, and then the other one though is a really, really cool burn, like a nuke kind of kill a thing and then hit everything else around it. So, yeah, it's a tough decision because once again, this is kind of like my level 2 decision. One was flashy and one was just like, yeah, this is a good card and you'll use it all the time. And now I've got another choice between good card or flashy. I kind of feel like I need to go the good card because I can't just keep taking flashy burns because I don't have 12 cards. And you know, I know the stamina math, which we're going to talk about this in a little bit with burns and stuff like that comes into play, but even when you get down to 5 cards, if you haven't burned any cards and then suddenly you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to drop all my burn cards. Well, now you're dead. Like, so
You've accepted that you're leaving.
yeah. So it's it's an interesting decision, but yeah, I kind of have an idea which way I'm leaning, but I think that's because it's the safer option.
Yeah. No, very nice. Well, let's jump into our topic. So this was inspired by the Mexican Superman, who wrote on last week's podcast episode. I'm not sure if my last comment posted. I don't know what that was. But something you should look into as a discussion point is the use of a burn and its value. You can go online and find a stamina calculator. I did not do it because I did not look for that. But it's great that it exists. I don't even know what it would do. For example, Phil playing his hidden daggers in round 5 took away a couple of his turns later on, but he did extend himself with some rests. However, the calculator doesn't account for Detty's recover your discard pile. But it'd be fun to see you all discuss the pros and cons of burning early. So before we jump into this topic, also, I'll just reiterate with some fine text that we are not experts. We don't sit here and have crunched the math and all this. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would understand the whole thing a lot more than us. But this is, it's a conversation between Gaz and I for everyone else out there. And then everyone can write in the comments below, further on it. And we can also create some discussion in our Discord around it so that at the end of the day, we all learn together, because there's going to be some people out there who are going to, learn from Gaz and I, and then Gaz and I learn from other people. And it's just a, I want to say circle jerk. It's just a circle of conversation and learning, look.
Good pivot there, Detty. Good pivot. Yeah, we aren't experts, and I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is just anecdotal, right?
Yeah,
like from experience,
completely.
a little bit about our core values, about like how we feel and like to play. Which part of that is when we get confronted with classes that kind of go against that, it becomes this tricky, like, I'm not playing it how I feel, and maybe I'm too conservative, which that burn stuff comes into.
Let's start with that. We're the biggest, I want to say elephant in the room, but the most common thing that it goes between you and I is that we're both a bit burn adverse. Now, we've played characters in the past where we had to get used to doing that because it was built into the playstyle of the character. But I think it's so ingrained in us, and it's a deep down, a trait that we both have. We both are just, probably a bit more hesitant to actually throw burn cards out willy-nilly. Why is that? And do you think that it's a problem, or is it something that is just something that we work with and it works?
For me, I tend to play on the more conservative side than the flashy side.
Yeah.
Because I usually find that that's a better path to winning the scenario. And a lot of that maybe come out of Frosthaven, because there was a lot of objective-based scenarios there that you had to do and do the right things. But also, if you look at the second half of Frosthaven, all of Crimson Scales, and now what we've started with second edition, I just miss all the time. Like, why would I bother wasting cards, like burning a card, if it's just going to say you do nothing?
Yeah, which is a big tempo thing, right? Because if you're not achieving anything with the burn, let's use the example of Crankbow, round 2, right? The thing had poison on it, and we calculated that due to an attack afterwards that it would have killed it. Right, you're removing 9 health worth of stuff off the board. It is worth a burn. Now, you null on that. Not only have I now shortened my lifespan, right, but also that thing is still alive, which then needs more actions going into killing it. So that's what we would call a tempo swing, and how important it is to, placing burns at the right time. And I think on that, why I'm so adverse to it is for exactly that reason. Burns are pressure. right? Burns are meant to be impactful. And when you play a burn card or a loss card, you want to make sure that you're maximizing the value out of it for both the party and yourself. And that's a lot of pressure. And if I mess that up or I don't line it up properly, I feel terrible, like I did in this particular scenario. So it's easier to not do that or do it, as a burn closer towards the end of a scenario when we know something is won.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it as well for me, is that you don't know what's coming. And so burning a card early to get rid of, say, the Crankbow is a perfect example. You didn't need to burn that card to kill the Earth Demon, right? Because we have cards, we could just have played them and we could kill it anyway. If you had hit it like for 0 or more and it had died, then it would have been massive. But when you get to the last room and you see the last 4 monsters, and then you burn a card like Crankbow to remove one of those monsters, which is basically now the win condition, then it feels worthwhile, right? So there's this weird psychology in that. For me, early on, it is almost like it's not needed. Like, we'll just hold on to them, because why would I need to burn a card to kill this thing when I can just play a different card?
Yep.
And more other cards. Can someone else hit this, stuff like that? Whereas, say, and I think the example might have been given in the comment, but Phil playing his dagger throw card to delete with the bottom of some other card that he has to give him Pierce like 3 or something like that.
Pierce 2, yeah.
Pierce 2. He basically removed the wind demons, which were going to be a massive pain in the ass for us, right? So it's like I think overall that swung the tempo in our favor, even though he lost a card.
Yes.
Now, missing and the card being useless is always going to be a negative. Like, there's no way of being like, it would have been fine if he didn't kill anything.
Yep.
Then it would have been a terrible decision. But I think like I said, it depends on like the first half of the scenario versus the second half towards the end of the scenario.
Yep.
It's like they feel better at the end.
Yep.
Which is tricky. And I don't think that's true. But I know it does play into the stamina, which is what MexicanSuperman was kind of alluding to.
Yep. I think that you put a good point on the psychology of it. Back to why we are burn adverse is that now that I've done the Crankbow miss, there's going to be a psychological impact on how that's going to affect me in the future from Crankbow usage, right? And what I need to do is not allow that to dictate, doing it again, because that was still the right play, right? I would Crankbow again in that situation. And a lot of people will probably be like, yeah, but you want to make sure that you've always got, what do you call it? Advantage. Strengthen and all of that for that situation. I would do it again in a heartbeat because, with my deck at the time, it was like 1 out of 21 cards, I think, that was going to be the null. And, I've used it before and pulled -1s and been happy with that, right? It's still the correct play. But, I will still be crankbowing stuff without advantage moving forward, because it's such a low chance to pull the null unless I was Gaz. Unless I've just literally started cursing myself. And
yeah, maybe you've taken the curse. That'd be
let's
cool.
not do that, because this show, I don't know if you can handle 2 people.
You're being sad. No. I'm hopefully that it's transferred, not spread. That there's I'd be happy to not draw the null all the time. And look, it's funny that you mentioned that. It's like, you would do it. You did it. You think it's the right play. You would do it again, etc., etc. Like, I don't do that for that reason, and I wouldn't do that. Like, you've seen it. Like, I think I've nulled on 2 burns already in the campaign. Right, with a 1, and it probably wasn't 1 in 20 because there might have been less cards in there. It might have been lower than that. But at the end of the day, the chances of doing that are still low.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I'm very reluctant to do that because, again, without advantage. But I have hopefully multiple ways of giving myself strengthen now. So yeah, it does play into it, and it's an interesting kind of extra piece of decision making.
Burning a card in the first rest cycle, right? Let's say we haven't done the math. That's probably what the calculator's there for.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much it would shorten. I dare say it'd be somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 5 rounds. It would probably cost you. Right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. This is what the calculator will do, is tell us, so we can try and make up the math now. But I think that's about it, right? Because, you you lose a card at the end of the round for burning anyway, and being on 10 cards, that puts me on 9, right? Which means I've got one unplayable card. But having a stem pot fixes that. So therefore you basically play the next round with 10 cards again. So you don't lose any momentum.
Yeah.
So there's like these weird spaces that you can get away with doing it and not. Whereas if you burn a card and you rest, then you don't have any way of like going back to it like a fake 10 card hand
Yeah.
with any items unless someone returns a burn for you, but that's completely different, right? So yeah, it is. I think I don't know the math on it either, and I think that it does do a lot. It does.
On not knowing the math, I'm going to go out and say that that's a good thing for us. I think that if we knew all of that and knew the math of that, it would kind of ruin it a little bit for me from a freedom of playing, if that makes sense. I feel like there's way more, I'd be putting way more restrictions on myself just knowing, well, this is the wrong time to be using it because I've worked out the math of, how exactly the most efficient way of playing my hand instead of right now where I'm just like, lol, let's see what this does, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, like if I'm going to burn a card, I need to see the situation that I'm going to get good value out of it. Now, if that's in a big attack, then it's got to be hitting a priority target. If it's a like a summon, I got to be summoning into a place that looks like it's going to be effective to do something. Not like, oh, if I summon it here, next turn it's just going to die because the thing it's hitting has retaliate and then it's dead, right? In which case, that's just a bad decision. So yeah, I think evaluating the impact for me is the biggest piece.
Yeah,
Not when in my rest cycle and how this impacts my stam, because I feel like I don't know, that's a future Gareth problem.
Totally.
So
I've got a couple of points here that I have mocked up here. So in terms of good burns versus bad burns, all right? Good burns, things like tempo nuking, which is what I was trying to do with the crank bow. All right. So I've got a scenario here. You open a door, there are 3 enemies. If you don't burn and they all hit you, if you burn, one immediately dies. Right? That as a situation. So basically, if you do burn, losing 1 card voluntarily is better than losing 2 cards later to negate damage, which is something that you've had to do in the past, not because of a decision to not burn, but I mean, everyone knows how bad that feels. So to avoid that, if you are spending a burn to make that thing, it's essentially like the spending money to make money principle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, again, a priority target or negating some kind of big negative effect that's probably going to have a bigger detrimental impact on you. Because the same argument could be made for, and I don't know if this is one of your examples, but like throwing out Dwarf and the people were being like, oh, you didn't need to put him there, blah, blah, blah. But where we've seen it in the past and you're like, oh, he only lasted 2 rounds. And it's like, yeah, but he took 5 attacks, right? Or even 3 attacks is a good amount of damage for the burn.
Yeah.
Similar to like when my rats got like pasted, right? They took like a crit 12 or something like that. I'm like, well, if that had hit one of us, that would have been a card. So
and depending on where we were in our rest cycle, right, there could have been 2, right?
It could have been 2, yeah. So I think, yeah, you're right. Like avoiding that negative impact can make it make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Another good burn situation will be, and it's built into cards, is the persistent value, right? And I'm looking at summons, right? For the examples that you've just given. Permanent buffs, so we're talking like crushing weight because it's a burn and it's built into the drifter, or the Geminate one that helps it to, I think, take damage and make fire. These kind of ones are obviously good. They lose value the later into a scenario that you have, right? So if you're at the very end and you pop a pet, I mean, it's probably because you've probably won and you're doing it ultimately for the XP. But if you pop a summon at the earlier portion of the scenario, it's soaking up hits, it's doing out damage, you get more value out of doing them early. And I think that that's probably something that I struggled with a little bit with a Frosthaven character that actually towards the later end of the campaign had a pet. And I mean, actually, now that I think about it, that wasn't a burn pet. So scrap that. But early pets, it feels bad, right? So Snowflake's a good example of it may or may not have a summon. And there was one time where I think I brought it out and it died real fast. And, the mentality of losing it kind of sucks. But I think my mind is now starting to shift and change. And that's actually thankful for the community that have pointed out the value I'm getting out of it.
I think the summon evaluation for burns is a bit weird in that we expect too much of them
Oh yeah,
generally.
big time. We want to keep them alive through the whole thing, right? They're part of the
Correct.
party. Heal them up. Let them get, we want them to stay out forever
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
we've sacrificed
exactly.
the card for them,
A
Gaz.
card. Yeah, they're mine, right? They're like my pet. Yeah. 100%. I think that our expectations are too high on that. And I'm not sure what has made that.
Mm,
Whereas I feel like if all of us were playing the Bone Shaper, we wouldn't care
no.
because it's not a burn. And the thing is with that, it's probably a lot more around like getting 2 or 3 turns out of them is amazing. Like,
Yes.
especially with the rat and the combo with doing attacks. Like, if I can throw it out and then the next turn do 2 attacks and get it to attack basically 3 times in a turn.
That's
I mean, 3
huge.
attack twos with putting poison on things, etc., is pretty good value, right? Like a burn card to say maybe it says attack 3 times granting poison is pretty good. You probably and then also soaking some damage. So that's pretty good. Now, am I happy with that? No, it's got to last for
Mate, you want
15
20 rounds of that. Imagine how much value you get out of keeping it alive through the whole
exactly.
scenario, Gaz.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just this potential. So yeah. Okay, what was your other scenario? Sorry.
Closer, basically. So burning at the end to obviously secure the victory. No one's giving you props and you're not getting a bunch of extra XP and points and all that for finishing the scenario with 7 cards left. There's a fine line in the game of basically, I think if you can finish with next to nothing left, you've played incredibly well. And I think that that's another mentality thing of, if you finish with a whole hand of cards, there's probably a lot of things you've left on the table. And it's mostly going to be XP, right? But yeah, as another example of good burning is right at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's tricky, and the party makeup has something to do with that because I know that Phil starts with us cards and has a couple of burn cards that he plays and tends to be almost dead after he has finished his first rest cycle, and so that is there. And then you think your thing is to burn cards, so you can quickly go from I'm fine to I don't have many cards left because I did a bunch of impactful things. So I think because I only have a couple, I'm also playing more conservative and going into like just not burning anything.
Yeah,
Um, with the exception of the rat when I've been bringing that out early. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
yeah. When's not the right time to burn? So I've got a couple of examples, and you can add on to those. The overkill burn. Somebody has 4 health. There's really no need to burn. You can kill it with literally basic attacks, right?
Yeah, well, I suppose again the circumstances. Like again, if you burst into a room and there's a bunch of things with 4 health, but they're going to hit you really, really hard,
Yes.
then maybe burning a card is the right thing to do. But yes, if I think the answer is if you have another card, if you have another card that would do what this is going to do but not burn, then yes, that makes sense to not burn it.
Yeah. The I'm bored burn, right? This is probably best signified with move loot or just loot 2s, things like that, burn like that. When, it's maybe early in a scenario, unless there's a really specific reason, or movement. I think where if you've got to move 8 and we're not ready to traverse to, another room yet and you're not playing catch up, but you're just doing it because why not? And you're getting XP. I mean, they're bad situations to be using it in.
Like your rocket boots in scenario 1?
I think that was the right play. Otherwise, I'd be spending forever catching up.
Okay.
That was 100% the right play.
Yeah.
The third example I have is low hand size classes. I think Phil's probably the biggest example, and I'm not saying he does this, but if he blows a burn in the first or second round, considering he's got 9 cards, he shortens his life dramatically compared to you and I.
Yeah, that's the thing as well with again, without the math of how long it lasts, but he starts with 9, he ends up with 8 on his next rest cycle. If he burns 1 in that first rest cycle, he's going down to 7, and that's
immediately exhaustion for him because
basically he's just like I'm basically out of cards, guys. I can't do anything. I'm dead. So it is a lot trickier. I'd say it's a way more of a knife's edge and a risk reward thing with a class that has a low hand size.
Yeah. So I've got a little thing I've typed up about how we can fix our loss aversion and ways that we can mentally change maybe the way we look at losing cards. All right. So I was like, how can we spread this out to a blanket kind of rule kind of thing that maybe we can work around? Not like a hard rule, but something to think about. One room, one burn, right? As a kind of like a soft kind of rule. So, you know, like that's something I can easily fall into because I'm a tinkerer with 12 cards, right? And that's built into me. So, okay, maybe that's a slight exception. But if you're getting one burn good value in a room and it's helping to accelerate the clearing of said room, it's probably something that we can work towards where it feels like it's good value.
Yeah,
And it
I
just
think that
means,
makes sense.
yeah. Health is a resource, right? So we either burn because when like we want to kill stuff or get some high impact turn off, or we're going to essentially be burning to negate damage. And one of them is probably a lot more effective than the other. So you're probably better off burning the card than you are to use it to negate and prevent health from going down.
Yeah, well, you get those weird situations, right, where you get hit for 12 and you've got 6 health, and you're like, well, I mean, sorry, in that situation, you have to burn a card to not lose. But there's other times where you're on 10 and you get hit for 8,
Mm.
and you're like,
Yep.
I mean, this is probably the hardest I'm going to get hit or scenario. If I'm going to burn a card, this basically it says heal 8 on it, but doesn't require an action. The thing is with that is it depends on the party makeup. Like we've had parties before, like I remember playing one of the Crimson Scales one where I got crit and I'm like, that's fine. Like I'll be fine. Like I have enough self-sustain here that I can get my numbers way back up. Or I'm going to go really fast and go invisible. Or there's a whole bunch of little tricks you can have where you're like, that's fine, I'll cop it because I'm going to rest anyway. And that's another 2 plus an amulet plus whatever else. And now I'm suddenly almost back on full. So it is kind of like where in your rest cycle are you? Like if it's at the start of it and you don't plan on resting for ages and no one has any heals, well, you should be burning that card.
Yeah, that's the psychology of that is always very fascinating. When we're copying 2 hits and the first one is like, you know, it's an attack 4, you have a certain health and it's a +2. It's like, I know what I should be burning for this. But also, what's the next card? Maybe it's going to be a miss. Maybe it's not going to be that much. And yeah, it really gets in our heads.
Yeah, that's the part that really it's a cool little decision, but I feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like you never feel like you'll win that. Where, as you said, say you've got 10 health and you get hit for 8, and you're like, well, I'm getting hit again after this for like another 4. Well, I should burn this one, right? Because if I don't burn this one, then I'm going to burn the next one. So you go, well, I'll burn this because it's basically keeping me on high health. And then you burn the card, and then the next one's a miss. And you're like, okay. So like that's the thing. But if you don't, and then you go to 2, then everything's going to kill you. So yeah, it's an interesting decision.
And the last point is the finisher kind of mindset. So every class, it's safe to say, probably has probably their biggest impact burn, whether it be something about refreshing someone's whole hand size or something like that. It's finding the right time to actually use that and almost saving that for the right moment, knowing that you are going to use that because it's going to be a big swing. And probably the best example is Phil's Hidden Daggers, right? That thing, if we know that we're going to have a high shield or a low, a bunch of living spirits in a room, that's going to be the difference maker. And he building his whole, not so the whole hand and strategy around that, but knowing that he's not going to really burn other stuff because that's going to be at some point his tempo swing in a particular scenario. It could be me with a triangle if I wanted to make that a thing, but that kind of helps just know that, you know, at some point during the scenario, this is going off, right? As because that, you know, will make a massive difference in terms of whether or not we're going to win or lose.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I've got that. I can't remember the name of it. What's the mind control one that I've got?
Hostile Takeover?
Yeah, hostile takeover. Because like
that was
the
huge.
Top action, well, the top action of that is an attack, like I think 2 at range 4, and it immobilizes them and makes ice, right? So that's fine. But I'll play that a lot of the times when I'll also pick another half of the other card. Or maybe in that case, I play 2 tops.
Yeah,
right.
Because you can swap.
Yeah. If I need to, and like because I have to wait to see what the monsters draw before hostile takeover is useful. Because I've thought about it before. I'm like, oh, I'll play this into skeletons, and then the skeletons heal shield, and you're like, well, that's dumb. So it's a case of like having it as a backup, and so I kind of more use that of like I will play 2 tops, maybe I'll do a range attack and move. or I'll use my other card and do the top action and just use a basic move from the hostile takeover. But I've kind of got flexibility there, where it'll just randomly come out. I won't be planning to use it. It'll just be like, hey, I'm going to do that now, and it's if it has a big impact. So
because that card is set on what the monsters are doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know that until they draw. So, there's cases where you could play it and be like, if I was relying on that being the bottom and my top doing something else to support that in some way, like what it is. But if I did that, then it could be a case of like, well, now I'm just whiffed because I don't they haven't drawn anything interesting.
Yeah. Just the last thing I was going to say was that hostile takeover, even though we could have covered it in the diaries, I'm learning, and this is what I love about the game, and week by week, I learn new things about certain cards or certain mechanics in the game. And the fact that is something that not only, it's not like a mind control, like a standard one, like you just granting it, you're literally deciding what it's doing, which means in the scenario that we just did, you're making it hit something else, but you're also removing its ability to do whatever it was going to do to us. And that double effect from a tempo swing is actually amazing, right?
Yeah.
It would be even better if it lands its hit, right? when whatever you're doing. But holy crap, yeah, it's just the value of that just keeps going up in my head, which is really cool.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I kind of clued onto that, I think, when I was reading the FAQ, and it's got a question about monsters who are summoning, and if you use hostile takeover, do you get to control the summon? They're... Well, I agree you should, but no, they said no. So, but they did say you can just skip the summon. I was like, okay, yeah, I think I was undervaluing the ability to use the card to almost just like soft lock or kind of stun a monster in some capacity. Maybe get it to remaneuver or something like that. But you're right, they were hitting, like the Earth Demons were hitting for 4 or 5 or whatever it was. So that card was essentially saying like, don't attack, but also do 4 or 5 damage to this other monster. And as you said, if I don't draw a null, that's a pretty big tempo swing, right? Instead of us getting hit for 4, it's like the monsters have taken like that damage. So
correct. No, really good points. That was fun.
It was. Good topic. Thank you, Mexican Superman.
Thank you, Mexican Superman. That just sounds funny. Let's close out. We will wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. We will see you all next week on our next playthrough on Monday. Look forward to seeing you, Tiny. And I don't know, should we poll the scenario?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. I love doing that.
Yeah, okay. That's just the lazy, easy way of doing it, right? And this is great.
It is. It is, but I think we're narrowing it down with all these caveats. Like, we don't want to fight, living bones. We don't want to fight the summers. There was a couple in there that people suggested. They're like, don't do this one for reasons. I'm like, oh, we're running out of scenarios, but hey, let's just throw it out to people and they can decide for us.
Done. All right. Well, thank you again for tuning in. I've been your host, Eddie. I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, just crank your bow.
Fingering. Dobbing.